He's, driving in his car from Texas to Florida with 5 cats in his car a few years ago. So yeah, he takes it to a different level.
Right. Now, one other thing I want to talk about is obviously, I know you as TJ. A lot of the world knows you as Tyson Kidd.
Yeah.
Now, I kind of feel like I might have cracked the code on why you chose the name Tyson Kidd. And, maybe you've been asked this before, but I have my own theory about it. So I'm assuming, obviously, going into FCW at the time, everyone got a new name. I think that you got the best name out of anybody there. And I'll tell you why I like Tyson Kidd. I like Tyson Kidd because in a lot of ways, you and Harry teaming, you were like the Dynamite Kid to his British Bulldog.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like that's where it comes from. And I think that Tyson is kind of cool too, whether this was the reason or not, but that Mike Tyson was called Kid Dynamite. Take it from a guy who also calls himself Black Dynamite, which is one of my names. Love the work of the Dynamite Kid. I kind of feel like that's the direction of maybe where that name came from. And I'm also thinking with Kidd, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on this one, but I remember there being a goalie for the Calgary Flames named Trevor Kidd.
Yeah.
So that's how I feel I might have cracked the code about the name. I might be totally wrong, but
pretty accurate. We had to at one point we had to write a list of like 5 names, and so in FCW they never changed my name. I just always was TJ Wilson.
Okay.
And but we had to write out a list of names, and I remember to me, and I know this is gonna sound really weird, it'd be so awkward if I were to go to do an autograph and like it didn't start with a T. I'm so used to, obviously my name's TJ, like always signing stuff starts with a big T. Anyway, I remember coming up with these names, and I just remember being like, man, these names are not good at all. But I remember I definitely didn't have Tyson Kidd in that name, but I don't even think I had Tyson, because at the time Tarver was actually Tyson Tarver, not Michael Tarver. And so I had all these other names. Like I remember being like, okay, I was kind of looking for fighters' names. Like I'm friends with Josh Barnett, and I remember like putting like TJ Barnett, and of course like it's not my real name, so it's not going to sound good. And I was like, that sounds terrible. I was like, but at least it's like I was trying to come up with like fighter names and stuff like that. Anyway, I got called up and I did a dark match in Oakland with Jamie Noble, and I was TJ Wilson that day, and I saw the writer for ECW, and he said, okay, you're gonna debut tomorrow, but we need to come up with a name through legal. I said, okay.
Was that Dave Lagana at the time? Just out of curiosity.
No, that was Ed Koski.
Ed Koski, okay.
And so I was like, okay, cool. I was like, this woman writer, Jen, she had called me, and I think on the Wednesday to tell me I was being called up, and that they would have to change my name, and so to be thinking. So I was thinking. And then I saw him, and he told me, and so I fact checked it, and he's right in 2009 or 2008, I guess. But he's like, yeah, I remember. All I remember is I don't remember the last name. They wanted to call me Ethan something, and I was like, Ethan. I was like, that I don't know any Ethans, man. I know like Ethan Hawke, the actor. In 2009, that's it that I know of. I was like, damn, to me, this doesn't sound like a fighting name. Like, goddamn. And then he said it was the most common name in Alberta. And I was like, well, I'm from Alberta. I don't know any Ethans, man. Like, but I Googled it, and I think in like 2008, it was the top name for babies. So there's going to be a lot of Ethans now in Alberta, but not when I was growing up. So anyway, I was like, well, and I remember seeing Johnny in the hallway. He's like, we need to come up with a name. And I said, and I've been talking with Natty that day, and Tyson, obviously, I mean, you cracked the code, is exactly that. And I wrestled in Japan as Stampede Kid. So I thought like, okay, I'll use Kid, but I'll add a D, so it's a real last name. But also in the event that Harry and I team up again, because at the time we weren't teaming yet, we were in FCW, then we stopped, and now I'm getting called up to ECW, and then he ends up coming a few months later in May.
Yep.
And I remember thinking, so the Bulldogs, obviously they're the British Bulldogs, but they were Dynamite Kid and Davey Boy Smith, so Kid and Smith. I was like, he's DH Smith. If I'm Tyson Kidd, it still is Kid and Smith.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay. And then I told Johnny, what about Tyson Kidd? And then he was like, Tyson Kidd, huh, I like it. And then walked off. And then the next day, my C Ed, and then they're like, yeah, okay, so your Tyson Kidd legal approved it. And then so that was that. It was cool. It was cool that it was like such an easy process.
And I think it's a great name. It's of all the names people were getting at the time, some of them were almost laughable. Yeah. I really feel you had the most badass name when it came to Tyson Kidd. And
like so also a weird thing is like I was also in this group of guys where we'd been in developmental for 18 to 24 months and then get called up and then sink or swim, kind of, it felt like. In terms of the names, like the guys at that time that got called up around me is Ryan Braddock,